Welcome back. We are in Lodi, California, just outside of Sacramento, here to talk about the immigration issue. And joining us now is Marc Grossman, a spokesman for United Farm Workers of America. Marc, thank you for joining us. You were just telling me you've been working on this issue really since the 70s. Is that right?
That's correct.
And how things have evolved and how things have changed. Used to be you were kind of, it was kind of a opposite sides, kind of a adversarial role between the farm workers and the growers, but things have changed now.
That's true. We fought for decades on issues like guest workers and earned legalization, and now we're on the same page, and I think we've come a long way.
Give us your perspective on this proposal that is part of the comprehensive immigration reform bill that's in Congress right now, and especially this ag guest worker program. Tell us what you like about it, where you think it would improve the situation.
Well, this compromise agreement negotiated between the United Farm Workers and the major grower organizations, the feature of it that we think is the most critical is the earned legalization provisions that would allow farm workers in this country now who don't have legal papers to earn the right to permanently stay by continuing to work in agriculture. And it's critical both to the future of farm workers and the survival of the agricultural industry. Undocumented farm workers take jobs that other American workers won't take for pay other American workers won't accept, and under circumstances other American workers won't tolerate.
Let's talk more about that. We heard both from Wendy and from Barb. They said that exact same thing. I think there are still people, though, in this country that have a hard time understanding that or believing it. They still feel that jobs are being taken away from U.S. citizens. But when it comes to agriculture, we're talking about specific jobs that evidently not enough U.S. citizens want to do.
The numbers we've seen that look most credible say there's perhaps 1.6 million farm workers in this country. About 600,000 are U.S. citizens or legal residents, and 1 million are undocumented. They don't have legal papers. Those undocumented workers help comprise the very backbone of the agricultural industry. If you were to deport all of the people here without papers now, we believe that American agriculture as we know it would collapse. A couple of years ago, a number of farm workers under UFW contracts came together and said, we're tired of hearing people say that we're taking jobs that go to good That should go to good Americans, especially with high unemployment. So they said they should take our jobs. So we created a campaign called Take Our Jobs. We set up a website. We offered to recruit American citizens and legal residents to work in agriculture. We set them up with jobs in agriculture wherever they lived around the country through the state employment services. We had millions of hits on that website. About 8,600 people filled out online applications to work in agriculture, and all told, at the end of the day, 12 showed up somewhere in the United States to work at least one day, and most of them didn't last that long. So, Stephen Colbert from Comedy Central did 3 of his shows about Take Our Jobs campaign. He went and worked himself a day at a vegetable farm in upstate New York, and then testified before Congress alongside UFW President Arturo Rodriguez for immigration reform for farm workers, and even went outside of character for the first time. Farm workers and growers are truly heroic in their willingness to work hard and to take risks every day to produce the greatest abundance of food the world has ever known, and yet that future is really in jeopardy unless we do something, and this compromise agreement offers relief to both sides. It recognizes reality as well as equity in the fields.
We're talking with Marc Grossman, spokesman for United Farm Workers of America. So we're talking 1 million workers that aren't so-called documented or legalized or whatever. If, as some people want, if those 1 million workers were deported, what would that mean to U.S. agriculture? What would it mean to food availability and food price, you think, in this country?
Well, it would be very difficult to feed a country this big with an agricultural industry that has developed as far as it has without the men and women who harvest and produce the crops. You would see a severe labor problem. You would see prices increase. Americans would not be able to enjoy the fresh fruits and vegetables that they enjoy every day at their dinner tables without these men and women who who do the work that really U.S. citizens and legal residents have not been in any appreciable numbers for many decades.
And what we're hearing from the farmers here is they would struggle to be able to stay in business and probably would not be able to. Now, let's talk about the provision in this new bill. We're hearing about this concept of a blue card. How would that work?
If you're a farm worker and you've been in this country already, you have to show that you've worked, I believe, 100 days over a 24-month period before the law takes effect. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't come after the law's passed. You had to have a documented employment history. You would qualify for temporary legal status, a blue card, and then over a 5 to 7 year period, you would have to continue to work in agriculture in order to get permanent legal status, and your immediate family members would get the same status you do. So, what you've had is, agriculture is often kind of entry-level work for new immigrants. Mm-hmm. Many of them come from an agricultural background in their home countries. But once they're here, there are all kinds of other jobs you can take in restaurants and hotels and manufacturing and processing. And so many of them leave. What this bill, our goal is to enable the people who are here now, who are willing and able to do the work, an incentive to stay in agriculture. And that incentive is earned legalization. So the earned legalization provisions are as important for the survival of the agricultural industry as the new visa program that would replace the existing H-2A program.
Yeah, let's talk about that. How would the new visa program work?
Well, there were two key issues on wages and on caps.
Right.
And this measure is a compromise. We wanted more in wages. The employers wanted less. The employers wanted a larger cap. It's about $112,000 a year. Mm-hmm. We wanted fewer, but this is what we settled on. And I think it's important to remember that, we've seen anecdotal evidence of labor shortages in some areas and some crops, so that's real. But what this measure would do would offer the industry what it's always said it wanted, which is a legal and stable workforce. So under wages, this measure respects a 50-year tradition of American law that says you don't want to pay foreign workers less than domestic workers would make, because you would depress pay in this country for domestic workers. It says that you don't want to bring in people from outside the country to work in agriculture unless you offer American workers, domestic workers, the first opportunity to have those jobs. Those are very critical questions, because in our view, by ensuring that foreign workers do not depress pay for American workers, and by ensuring that American workers have a first shot at jobs, you will really avoid the need to import large numbers of additional foreign farm workers, because you offer domestic farm workers an incentive to stay in the industry, because you're going to make sure that their pay isn't going to be depressed, and that they'll have the first opportunity to take these jobs.
Yeah, a big part of this, and we've been talking a lot about this, is not only to attract workers, but to keep workers.
Exactly. I believe it was Karen who said that she gets about a 10-15% turnover, which is actually pretty good. It means that workers are coming back to work at that vineyard year after year. Many growers would like to keep the workers they had. Many of them have worked for them for years. And farm work, the conventional wisdom is unskilled labor, but that's not really true. A lot of it is highly skilled and requires a great deal of experience for workers to do it profitably for themselves and their employer.
Of these million workers that are here illegally, or without documentation, if you will, what percentage of them do you think actually want to become U.S. citizens?
Well, it's hard to know. Some of them certainly will, and the path to citizenship should be clear and as speedy as possible. But many of them, it used to be before the crackdown on the border, and it became so dangerous and expensive to come across, many of them were true migrants. They'd have their families in Mexico or their home countries. They would come here to work during the season, and then they'd go back to where they prefer to live. Now, with the crackdown on the border, especially after 9/11, it became so dangerous and expensive to come over. Many of them either haven't seen their families in years, or they bring their families here, which is one of the reasons you're seeing a big uptick in poverty in parts of the Central Valley.
Now, I want to talk about, we've only got about a minute left, but you're talking about it's harder to cross the border. We keep hearing the need. We have to have more border security because too many people are getting across. So
Well, it's pretty
I'm
good
hearing
now.
two
I mean, the
things.
border security is really there already. And actually, under the Obama administration, they've deported more undocumented workers than ever before. So what this bill would say is the people who are here now, who have a demonstrated employment history, get to stay and get to obtain permanent legal status by continuing to work in agriculture. And that for us is the most critical feature of the bill, is the earned legalization.
And we were talking earlier, it is hard to set a number saying you have to have so many hours or so many days of staying on the job, because out here it's a different season than if someone was, say, in the Midwest or somewhere like that.
That's true. In California, because of our diversity of crops and weather, you can work in agriculture much of the year. In the Midwest, in the South, other parts of the country, shorter growing seasons. So unless you set the threshold to qualify for the blue card process, if you set it too high, you're going to exclude too many people, especially in the Midwest and other parts of the country outside California.
That's Marc Grossman, spokesman for United Farm Workers of America. Mark, stay with us. We're going to take a break. I'm going to bring in Rain Pegg, Manager of Federal Policy for the California Farm Bureau, as we learn more about the immigration issue and how it affects not only California agriculture, but really all of agriculture. And, of course, this is a national debate. Agriculture is just part of it, but it's a very important part of it. So stay with us from Lodi, California, just outside of Sacramento. Stay with us. This is AgriTalk.